Live from the MGM Grand Convention Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, it's theCUBE at Splunk.conf 2014. Brought to you by headline sponsor, Splunk. Here is your host, Jeff Kelly.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Kelly with Wikibon. You're watching theCUBE, and we are live at Splunk Conference 2014. Excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Looking forward to next year's show as well. Joining me now in this segment, we've got Donnie Burkholz, who's an analyst with RedMonk, and John Rooney, who is Director of Developer Marketing with Splunk. Guys, welcome to theCUBE.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one topic we've been hearing about over and over on theCUBE with the various Splunk customers that have come on is this concept of DevOps, and Splunk enabling those organizations to rapidly develop and deploy and redevelop applications to kind of serve their customers. Why don't we start, John, with you and talk a little bit about Splunk's view of the DevOps movement. Sure. and why that's important to kind of your customer base.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think if you begin with some of the fundamental principles of DevOps, and Donnie and RedMonk's done a lot of really great work in that space. The idea of, in order to be more responsive, in order to kind of turn the feedback cycle very quickly. It's something that GE Capital talked about in the keynote here at the conference. What you essentially need to do is transform some of the traditional stovepipe roles between operations and development. So it's no longer the idea of, hey, it works in my dev environment, I'm chucking it over the fence, and there's this very different set of responsibilities, different set of concerns, in many cases different set of tools and systems between those roles. From a Splunk standpoint, now obviously there's a big part of that that's cultural, there's a big part of that is practice-based. But ultimately, there is now an emerging set, a pretty varied set of tools and systems that are sort of driving these processes at our customers, whether it's a tiny startup or a gigantic enterprise. And from our standpoint, it's all machine data. It still outputs machine data. It still provides the type of opportunities for us to correlate that data, provide insights, provide real-time analytics into seeing, okay, when this machine, when someone checked in code into a code repository here that kicked off a build on a build server, that's an event. That's a machine-driven event that you can put into Splunk and have that view overall. So we think about Splunk as being an enabling tool, and it's something we've seen in our customer base.
So maybe we take a step back, Donnie. And again, welcome to theCUBE, thanks for coming on. So we hear about DevOps a lot, and as I mentioned, we've had a number of Splunk customers on that kind of talk about DevOps, but we've had a hard time really pinning it down. I mean, can you give us a little bit of a DevOps 101? I mean, from your perspective, how do you define DevOps?
Sure, absolutely. So there's a lot of different ways to think about it, and I think John put a really nice summary in that they fall into two camps. You've got the tooling, and then you've got the culture, right? The organizational side of it. How do you make it happen in a company? And there's a lot of disagreement within the DevOps community about which one of those should come first, which one should come second. Does the tooling catalyze the culture, which is my belief, or do you have to change the culture first and then bring in the tooling, which some other people believe. And I think the easiest way to just sum it up in one sentence is you take agile software development and you carry it through to production. Right? You take that same idea of iterating rapidly over short cycles and just carry that iteration cycle a little bit farther down the road so that you're iterating not just from development to a completed build, but from development through test to operations, such that if you want to, you could even deploy it to customers. And the bigger picture view, though, in my mind, and where we start talking to some businesses about it, instead of just talking about how technically fun it is you think about, okay, who's on the other side of the developers and who's on the other side of the production support? And it's the business and the customer. And so from the business level, and if you hear Adrian Cockcroft, who used to be at Netflix, talk about this, he'll tell you, the real benefit of a DevOps approach using continuous deployment is you can iterate more rapidly than your competitors, you can ship features faster, and you can learn based on the customer receipt of those features, right? So if you're being agile software, you build something, but you still, at the end, you're not shipping it until 18 months later in many cases, right? You're just doing agile development and not agile